Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner. In this video, I would like to show my growing collection of handmade figures and talk about some of the materials that I use to make them. Hello everyone. Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner. Thank you for being here and thank you for all your support on Wargames Vault and on Patreon with some of the items that I have there. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and here on YouTube for all your likes, all of your encouragement. Thank you, Corner Crew, for being members of this small but growing community here on MJ Hobby Corner. So I'm going to try and be as lively as I can. I will be very honest. I'm very tired. I've been doing a lot of work and other things going on. So I will try to be as lively as I can. But please excuse me if I do kind of drift off a little bit. But anyway, let's get this video going. So what I want to show today is my collection of handmade figures. And I have a few selected here. I have a little presentation for you guys. And we're going to talk about the different materials I use. Now, some of these materials are materials that are very experimental, and they may be materials that I tried a couple of years ago when the channel started. And then I decided, well, no, I don't want to expand this any further. And a lot of these figures we're starting to use in our RPGs as well, in role-playing games. So without further ado, let's go check out the material. There are some things I want to say. Okay, and here are the figures. There's quite a lot of them, and this is about half the collection. I do also make vehicles. We're not going to talk about vehicles in this particular video, but Scratch Builder Monthly will have a lot of vehicle articles. You can find that at Wargames Vault if you want to support my work. But here's an example of a Spriggan rider, and I've been experimenting with these within the last year or so. Take a little bit of plastic bag and burn it on. All this stuff is burned. The fuzziness is burned off of a Spriggan wizard. Now this is also done with the fuzzy sticks. However, after burning, I add a little bit of gravel here and there. I add some rope filament for grass. And, you know, there is a couple of bits from figures. Sometimes I will do that as well. You can see a couple of bits. There's a little creature there from one of the Age of Sigmar bits that I had. And I made a wizard. And it has a female form. And, of course, we have more Spriggan. I've made a wide variety of different Spriggan-like creatures using the technique. Now, sometime I will mix Procreate clay, as you can see here, with the fungus. This is a guy holding a spear. And this is all clay. Okay, so I do mix clay or plastic bits with some of these. Okay, so moving on with these Spriggan creatures, this is made from tin foil and fuzzy sticks, and of course burned on. You have to use flame in order to burn all the fuzz, and there are some miniatures on this removable howdah, which I made out of little sticks. Okay, so that is one beast, and here is another example with the plastic burned on. Okay, and so these are war beasts for the Spriggan. Now, fuzzy sticks are one thing, right? I like using the fuzzy sticks, and this one came out in one of the editions of Scratch Builder Monthly. I actually used clay for this one as well. That's all Procreate, and I use a little bit of crazy glue to stick on the clay and then sculpt it. Now, another thing I experimented with was making figures out of plastic forks. That's right. This is a plastic fork, which I shaped, and a plastic spoon, too. The plastic spoons were joined, and then I used a technique with a soldering tool and heat, which then carves and shapes the creature. I don't like using this technique because I have to use a mask. You cannot inhale any of the smoke that might come out. So this is kind of an oddity. This is not something that I generally do a lot, but it's interesting, you know? Okay, and aquarium gravel, some grit or kitty litter, clean kitty litter, and a wire, some hot glue. I highly recommend it. And this is a large earth elemental. This is something I do want to develop. This is a great way to make earth elementals or earth creatures, earth-based creatures. You can make figures out of so many different things. And of course, as you've probably seen in one of my shorts, everything starts with an armature. And I make armatures out of many different materials. This is going to be a Hydra creature with, who knows, we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. Another material that I work with is tinfoil. Now, with tinfoil, this is tinfoil with fuzzy sticks wrapped around it and then burned. So this is a combination of using tinfoil. There is wire in there as well. So wire, then tinfoil to give it a little shape, then the fuzzy sticks, and I burn them up. Now, this is experimental. I'm not sure if I'm going to develop this in any way. Here's a figure with a little bit better action pose. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. These are like Ant-Men or something. Again, I don't know if I'm going to develop this, but I may in the future. And you will see articles on this and videos on my Patreon. So going on tinfoil, making gribblies with tinfoil and the fuzzy sticks. This is again experimental. And again, I'm not sure if I'm going to really develop these kinds of figures. We'll see. I may combine this with my flower technique to see how the textures improve. But these are just giant ants. I love buggies. I really do. I love throwing them at my players in game. And scarecrows. This one's made out of rope filaments. The secret to all this are armatures. I'm going to make better scarecrows, I think. The next thing you can use, speaking of bugs, this is a little pistachio nut. Okay, you can do a lot of things with pistachio nuts. And it's pistachio nut, wire, and clay. The rest is sculpted with clay. So you can make little gribblies and things for role-playing games. Here is a real small, looks like a Umber Hulk or something like that. It's made with wire and clay. And then another little Ant-Man, again, wire and Procreate clay. Clay is my favorite material. Now, these are made with a variety of clay mixes, including Procreate, Sculpey clay, and it's usually in a 1-to-2 ratio, so 2 ratio of the Procreate or resin clay. It could be green stuff, could be milliput. My preferred clay is Procreate, and then I mix it with the Sculpey or with Fimo, right? And sometimes I'll throw in a little Aves clay. These are my figures for Deep Wars. I've made quite a few things for Deep Wars. Just because I don't have a Deep Wars collection, like not a very big collection. And so, you know, there's that. Now, these are the new figures that I made for Julie. This is a Mushroom Man fungus creature. He's pretty big. And it is quite possible to make skeletal creatures out of clay. This one's already 2 years old. I've played with this in Oathmark. And we can also make like big turtle skeletons. Ninja Turtle. Undead. Yes. This is also made with Procreate. And this is my newest figure. You've probably seen this one in shorts. Again, it's some kind of earth creature. Earth creatures are great because they're really not that difficult to sculpt. And you can really go crazy with your imagination, you know. So I love making like earth elementals and stuff like that. On Patreon, I'm gonna have a special earth elemental and elementals in general. We're gonna be talking about that in Patreon. Here's Ernie. This is a famous one. He actually became something of a studio mascot, and Julie used this to great effect in our Oathmark games. She's used it in other games as well. Now, the next thing that I'm going to get into is sculpting machines. Now, I make Navy ships. I make all kinds of vehicles with clay, including starships. You probably, by now, or maybe in the future, maybe by the time this video is done, the other video will not be up. But you'll see my clay starships. Okay. Now this figure is 8 years old. This is one of the figures that I started learning how to sculpt with. Okay. So this thing is a relic, and I've had to repaint it a couple of times. This has a clay base. I don't do my figures like this anymore, but it's an example of some of the machines that I've made in the past. And now I use these as automatons in my figures, sort of as like little extras to plug in some holes. Okay. And again, this one is roughly around 8 years old. So those three I made together, the ones I just showed you. So these are very old. This is all by making little bits of clay and then putting it on the wire and kind of shaping it as I go. So again, I use a similar technique for making this one. This one is recent, and this was made like last January or so. I have a video in my Patreon for this figure, I believe. But yeah, you can see that in Patreon and in Scratch Builder monthly. And I'm also using paper mache. Now, paper mache is strange. It's a weird way to sculpt, but you can make some pretty bizarre things with paper mache. Here is one that I want to finish it, so we'll see if I finish it. But that is paper mache. That actually, it's not a paste though. All it is gluing toilet paper glue and flour, right? The glue on the wire, the toilet paper, then taking a wet brush and just wetting it all, adding a little bit of flour, wetting it all. You know, it's a whole like little procedure. And it's interesting the textures it comes up with. I'm not sure if I'm going to develop that, but here's a beholder made with that same kind of technique. And it's pretty bizarre. You know, there's a tinfoil ball inside there, and then the rest is like toilet paper, paper mache. So again, I don't know, but here is a large figure. I made this one on the channel. You can probably see a video for it, and this is a huge figure. This is like a super creature for one-page rules we were playing with, and you might have seen this one. This is a figure I made for Deep Wars, and this is for Julie. And I also have a cool Hydra. I've used this a couple of times. This is an older figure now. I'm actually sculpting a little different, so I may make another Hydra with a lot more detail. We'll see. So those are my clay figures, and those are pretty much, it's pretty much the material that I love working with the most. Here's another creature that I just I'm finishing up. Okay, so again, this is just a little show and tell. You can see the giant centipede, millipede actually, and that millipede was made with tin, from tin cans and tin foil, and that's pretty big. I'm gonna make a smaller one, but yeah, that's like a mega millipede. And some of you guys may have seen my giant spider that I made with those same materials. So, all right, that's it. So one of the wonderful things about scratch building is that you can make a wide variety of different things, and it's very subjective. How something looks is really up to you. I have my own style, my own thing, my own look, what I want the figure to look like, right? And that's very subjective. what I really want to show with the material in Scratch Builder Monthly and in my Patreon videos, and here as well on YouTube, is what I'm showing is the technique really to get from point A to point B. And that's really the main thing. The rest is really subjective. So this video was dedicated mostly to my fantasy stuff, but I do make a lot of sci-fi stuff. And in a future video, we'll talk about machines made with spray bottle parts. Okay, so all these things are possible, and I'm making a whole little vehicle collection now, and I'm gonna upgrade some of my Gates of Antares armies that I'm gonna use in like other miniature agnostic games. So I have quite a few vehicles coming, and I have a new video coming to YouTube, which is the Starship Creator. That'll be at the end of the month, where we discuss everything starships. In the beginning of the month, we have On the Workbench, which is the terrain portion for that series. And then the Creature Creator is on Patreon, and that discusses all these types of creatures and things, fantasy creatures, and usually made from clay. And in Scratch Builder Monthly, I throw in everything else. So anything I make with spray bottle parts, ships, whatever. Scratch Builder Monthly will have all that stuff. So thank you very much, folks. I hope you at least get an idea of what the kind of work that I do here. And this is my primary work. This is the stuff that takes the most time. More than terrain, more than anything else. This is what I like to do most. All right, folks. See you in the next game. Don't mix. If you haven't seen our Warfleets FTL, you will see it. I'll try to get it up as soon as possible, or it may already be up. And that has a bunch of scratch builds. All these things you're going to see in game. Have a good one, and we'll talk very soon.